Commenter recently told me that the WordPress version is irrelevant to security, that the real problem is plugins. And you know what? They're partly correct, but they're also partly wrong. And it's that gap between being partly right and completely safe where businesses actually get hurt. Welcome to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost with me, Charly Leetham. If you're a small business owner looking to simplify technology and get real, actionable advice from someone with 35 years of IT experience, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll dive into tools and systems like email, CRM, marketing and tracking, and I'll break them down into bite-sized tips you can use straight away. Your time is valuable, so let's get straight to the point. It's time to work smarter, not harder. Rise and Shine. It's your business tech boost with me, Charly Leetham, episode number 670. It is Firewall Friday, and we're going to be talking about all things security. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about WordPress version, why that actually matters for security, and why getting it wrong might cost you a little bit more than you think it will. Let me set this up for you, though. I posted a short recently mentioning that I had done a client site server audit, and I found several old versions of WordPress, and that was a concern. One commenter slid into the comments and said that version is irrelevant because WordPress hasn't seen significant exploits for a long time, and that it's the plugins that matter. Another commenter backed this up. Now, I'm not going to share those comments with you. They are on my YouTube channel. I have left them there. If you want to go find them, you're welcome to. But I wanted to address those statements. The first thing I want to address in those statements is the statement that WordPress hasn't seen any significant, that's the operative word there, exploits for a long time. Let's unpack what that word significant might mean. What does it actually mean? Does it mean high severity? Does it mean affecting millions of sites? Does it mean easy to exploit? Does it mean catastrophic damage? Because all of those are really different things. A vulnerability that requires specific conditions to exploit might be a low severity in a database, but if your site meets those conditions, it's probably incredibly significant to you. So that word significant, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that comment. And honestly, I don't feel that it was well defined. That's where I just want to leave that out there. But when you're using those sorts of things, we've got to understand the breadth and the context of what we're talking about. Now, I am going to be absolutely fair on this. That claim isn't coming from nowhere. Looking at the vulnerability data for 2024, because that's what we have available, 96% of vulnerabilities came from plugins. 4% came from themes. So there's 100%. But that doesn't mean that core didn't see any vulnerabilities. The core saw 7 vulnerabilities. It wasn't 0. And we're talking about the core when compared to thousands in plugins and themes, thousands and thousands of plugins and themes that get released and get installed on websites. So absolutely, plugins are the most reported are where the most reported vulnerabilities are found. That part is absolutely accurate, and I bang on about that in other videos. But here's what that statistic doesn't tell you. WordPress puts out approximately 14 releases per year, 3 major releases plus minor releases and security updates. There are over 59,000 plugins in the repository being constantly developed and updated. Okay, maybe it's not 59,000 being constantly and updated, but a significant number are updated and developed and updated. If you've got a focused team putting out a handful of releases versus tens of thousands of developers pushing updates constantly, where do you think more vulnerabilities are going to show up? The ratio isn't surprising. It is inevitable. More code, more developers, more opportunity for mistakes. Now, I'm going to cover a few more things in here because I can hear some people starting to scream already. Let's talk about how the WordPress core is updated and the focus they have on security. WordPress core has a dedicated ongoing security infrastructure. They've got a security team of, I understand, and these are the stats I could find, 50 experts. They have coordinated rollouts with hosting providers. They have responsible disclosure processes. That's a level of ongoing oversight that many plugins in the repository simply do not have. Now, let's have a look at the plugins. Plugins get reviewed once, and that's when they're first submitted to the repository. However, after the initial review, updates go out without the same level of scrutiny. Now, this isn't a criticism of plugin developers. Some of them run excellent operations, but what I'm trying to show here is that it is a structural difference. The core has people looking at that security. They recognized really early, which is why we only had 7 vulnerabilities in 2024. The core has a dedicated team looking at the security for WordPress. Plugins, maybe they don't. Themes, maybe they don't. Some plugins do. I know that there are a lot of plugin developers out there who run really tight shops, and thumbs up to you guys. Let's talk about what WordPress, though, has actually done to keep the core secure. So I've highlighted some of those issues. I've already said they've got a dedicated team, a security team of over 50 experts. These aren't people who just dabble in security on the side. It's their job. They're not just patching holes as they found. They're actively working to harden the platform. Harden means make it more robust and harder to hack, to make it more difficult to attack in the first place. WordPress doesn't just rely on their own team either. WordPress commissions third-party security audits. They bring in external experts to try to find the weaknesses. Fresh eyes, different perspectives, people whose job it is to specifically break things. That's a serious investment in security. WordPress also runs a bug bounty program. That means anyone, and not just professional researchers, anyone, me, for example, can report vulnerabilities and get paid for finding them. The goal is to have the good guys find the holes before the bad guys do. It's crowdsourced security at scale. The other things they've done to make WordPress more secure is that since WordPress 3.7, automatic security updates have been available for those who enable them. And I really highly recommend that you enable these automatic updates. When a security patch comes out, your site can update itself without you having to lift a finger. Not everyone uses this, of course, and there are good reasons to be cautious about automatic updates. But the infrastructure does exist because WordPress has taken this seriously. Now, why would WordPress be going to all this effort to keep the core secure and make it secure? They're doing this work because vulnerabilities in core exist and they keep being discovered. Not as many as plugins for certain, but they're there, and pretending otherwise is wishful thinking. Now I want to talk about why even minor or not significant vulnerabilities can matter. When WordPress releases a security patch, the release notes explain what was fixed. They have to. It's responsible disclosure. It also helps developers. Sometimes people like me, developers like me, go, oh, I've got to actually fix this in my plugin or in my theme so that it will still be compatible, so it will still work. But the problem with that is that you are actually giving the blueprint of how to hack that version of WordPress, the previous version of WordPress, to the attackers. Once a vulnerability is patched and documented, the exploit details are essentially public. Anyone running an unpatched version is now a known target. The moment that patch is released, unpatched sites become sitting ducks. Automated scanning tools can identify vulnerable sites within hours. It doesn't matter if the vulnerability was considered low severity before disclosure. Once it's documented, the risk profile can change completely. If you haven't updated, you're advertising your vulnerability to anyone who's looking. So here's the reality I see when I'm doing these server audits. When I find old versions of WordPress, it's rarely just the core that's outdated. These sites typically have old plugins too, old themes. Often they're running an outdated version of PHP because the old version of WordPress doesn't support the latest version of PHP or won't run on the latest version of PHP. And the older versions of PHP. So PHP, just so you all understand, is one of the little applications that runs on your web server that allows the code to run. And the older versions of PHP has its own security vulnerabilities. So you're kind of ending up compounding your risk. You've got multiple layers of outdated, unpatched software all stacking together. Am I catastrophizing this a little? Maybe. Is it a real concern to me? And here's why. Here's what a lot of technically focused people actually start to miss. Security isn't just about whether you get hacked. Many cyber insurance policies require you to maintain current software. There are compliance requirements depending on your industry. If you do get breached, there are notification obligations. Running outdated software can affect all of these, regardless of whether an actual attack happens. The business risk extends well beyond the technical vulnerability. I also want to add into that, into my thoughts there, because I've had an original thought after I wrote my notes here. If you get breached and you go to your cybersecurity provider and you say, I've been breached and I want to claim on my insurance, whether you can claim on your insurance is another question. They're going to say, were you updating your software? Were you running current software? You may actually be voiding your own insurance by not keeping these updates going on. I don't know. I'm not an insurance expert, but those are the sorts of things I would be considering, and I do consider when I look at my client sites and I look at my own sites. Now, finally, there is a difference between knowing how to build something and understanding how small businesses actually operate. Technical knowledge is valuable without a doubt, but understanding the real world implications for a business owner, the insurance, the compliance, the reputation, the time cost of recovery, that comes from experience working with those businesses day in and day out. That perspective matters when you're giving security advice. So does WordPress version matter? Yeah, it does. Not as much as keeping your plugins updated. I'll absolutely grant that. But it's not irrelevant. It's all part of the picture. And anyone telling you otherwise is giving you incomplete advice. Okay, that was a bit of a heavy one. I really wanted to drive home some of those points. I know there are going to be people out there that disagree with me, and that's okay. Disagree with me. My clients, the people who are working with me, I keep them updated. I keep them as up to date as possible, and I work with them when we find that incompatibilities start to come in because the theme can't be updated or that plugin can't be updated, so we can maintain the versions at the absolute latest. Now, what do you guys actually think here? Have I raised more questions than have I answered? I hope so, because that's how we learn. Have you dealt with comments like this? Have you had someone come in and say, it's not a problem to you, don't worry about it, she'll be right, mate? Very Australian thing to say, she'll be right, mate. I would really love to know. How did you handle them? How did you respond to them? What did you do? What worked? What didn't? Look, I'd love to know answers to all of these things that I'm asking here. So please leave comments wherever you're watching or listening to this video. Now, if it was useful, if it gave you some insight, please consider giving the video a like and maybe share this with a friend. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button at the top here and ring that notification bell so you find out when I drop more content. And finally, I think this is finally, if you need help with any of this, I'm here to help you. If you haven't already booked your free 30-minute breakthrough session with me, you can do that by visiting my website, askcharlyleetham.com, and clicking that button in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Or reach out and book more time with me if you've already used your free session. I would love to help. All right, that's it for this episode. I will see you Monday, where we are going to be talking more about mindset when it comes to technical things. See you all then. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thanks so much for tuning in to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost. I hope today's episode gave you some actionable insights that will make your business tech work smarter for you. If you found value, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other small business owners who could use a daily boost. For more tips, tools, and resources, visit www.askcharlyleetham.com. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and let's make tech simple together.